Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter, with a special guest host today. I have Miss Kelly Brooks Bay, author of The Rainbow Pants. Why don't you show them the book?
Okay.
And it's pretty exciting because the Rainbow Pants, Prince in the Rainbow Pants, the Rainbow Pants is going into its second printing.
Yes.
All right, that's awesome.
Yeah, very exciting.
And so people can order both regular copies and signed copies.
Yes.
And we'll put links below the video. We'll link to your blog if you want a signed copy, and we'll link to the Amazon buy page if you want to just quickly order it and have it shipped to you. Yes. Easy peasy.
Yes.
So anything else you want to say about the book? I'm gabbing. I'm just gabbing too much here.
It's really fantastic, and Lindsay did all the illustrations. So, that's why it's so good, really.
Oh,
because
thank
of her.
you.
So, absolutely.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, we got a lot of comments last week. Lorraine, by the way, is fine. She's out traveling, though, so she'll be back next week. So any questions that were specifically to her, I decided to hold until next week. We had a lot of response for the request for stamp clubs, because I didn't belong to any, so I asked you guys what you liked. So here are the top ones that were mentioned. Paper Wishes, Simon Says Stamp, Stamps of Life, and there's also the Stamps of Life Die Hard Club, which has dies to go with the stamps, and they also are very affordable. Tailored Expressions, Unity Stamp Club, Swirly Doos, Raisin Boat Stamp Rental, which is like Netflix for stampers. You get a stamp set, you do your thing, and you send it back. You get another stamp set, you do your thing, you send it back. That's exciting. I might have to try that. Club Scrap, and Paper Smooches. And if you want any more information on any of these, if you go to last week's video, Ask a Crafter 13, you can see what people wrote. You can reply to these people that have used the service, and that way you don't have to take my word for it. You can, I feel like, remember that show, Reading Rainbow? Yeah. Don't take my word for it. Is that show still on?
YouTube, I think.
Oh,
that's it.
It's too bad they don't make them anymore. Rainbow Pants would be
Rainbow
awesome.
Pants would be perfect.
It would be perfect. All right, so there you go. There's that. And also, Kim Ferguson wanted to let you know she is a Close to My Heart demonstrator, which is a stamping, kind of like Stampin' Up. It's a stamping and scrapbooking company that does direct sales. She offers a stamping club too that you can get in with a few friends, and you take turns hosting the party, and you have to commit to spending like $35 a month, but you can pick what you want. So that's another option too if you want to have a little more control about what you're going to get every month. All right, so some other comments that we got. I'm just going to go through with the comments before we get to questions. And Sharni writes, did I hear correctly that someone was looking for a pink watercolor? Daniel Smith makes a beautiful pink watercolor called Opera, and Dick Blick probably carries it. And also Winsor Newton makes the color Opera as well. It's a very bright fuchsia. It may not be as light fast as other colors. It's kind of what you give up when you get a really vivid color, but you have two options there for that color. Last week people were talking about color palette inspiration and where do you go for colors, you know, if you want to paint a room or you want to create a beautiful card. I recommended Paint Chips from the hardware store because they always have great you know, ways they put together color. But there's a few websites where you can get some wonderful color palettes. Designseeds.com, you can sign up for a daily email. Color Lovers, I mentioned that last week. And it's lovers like it's color like they spell in the UK with the extra O. Sherwin Williams has a site called letschipit.com, and they'll take any picture and turn it into a palette. And Kathy Samantaro recommends Color Play. It's a book by Joan Wolfram. It's a great book about color choices for quilting. Would you say that's, how would you say that?
No.
J-O-E-N. Joan. Doesn't, looks like it should be Joan. I don't know, but Wolfram is the last name. And it's great color choices for quilting. And you can also use any of that inspiration for paper crafts. We had a lot of chatter about the Brother Scan and Cut machine because I said I personally wouldn't bother with it until it's been around for a while. And we had a few actual users that own the machine chime in saying they were really happy with it. So if you want to know more about the Brother Scan and Cut, please go back to last week's video and read the comments. If you have any specific questions, you're better off directing it to the two ladies that actually own the machine that know things about it, because I do not. Maureen Robinson comments, wow, Valerie is such a generous viewer. Yes, she is. Thanks, Val. I got my guy. It has not left my table since I got it. And I have to thank Maureen for this tip. She writes, to avoid creating a glob of tape when running a line of tape, make sure you consciously touch the gun to the paper before you pull the trigger. I find that if I literally say touch, pull, each time I get a perfect line of tape. So I was using this and it was making awful noises, and then I read her comment and I pulled the trigger, touched it to the paper, and pulled it, and then let go, and it's quiet, and it doesn't make the weird squeaky noise. And thank you so much, Maureen. That tip has helped me immensely. Cami Smith 101 writes, if you want to make cheap stencils, use a Silhouette, or a Cricut, or whatever die cutting machine you have, and buy laminating pouches, and cut them apart where they're attached to the top, so you kind of get 2 for 1, and then you can cut out your stencils that way and make some great reusable stencils. Knitting with Fish responds to a question that Lorraine asked last week. She was wondering how she came up with that name. She writes, I so enjoy y'all doing this for us crafters. I'm always amazed how you seem to answer on the fly. Love the crafty comedy team with answers. Well, we got a lot to live up to this week.
Yeah. Yes.
Thanks for the answer on the memento markers. My YouTube name comes from going fishing on the river with my husband, whose nickname is Fish. Not crazy about baiting a hook, so I take my pieces of my machine knitting projects to seam up. Hence, knitting with Fish. Quality time with hubby. Well, that's awesome. I love that.
That's cool.
Her real name is Cherie. I call her Cherie from now on if we want to. I like knitting with fish better, though. That's,
me too.
That's good. All right. Let's go with the questions.
All right. So your first question is from the Artistic Pagan. And the question is, hi Lindsay, I have been following you for a few years now and have learned so much from you. I have even used some of your techniques when teaching my art journal lessons on my channel. I wanted to ask you how you go about contacting companies for getting involved with doing product reviews or working with a company for doing videos with their products. I have been thinking about this for both my art and crochet, that's good. My crochet channels, but not sure what the best way to go about it would be. Laura.
Oh, well, there's 2 ways that you can contact companies about their products. One way is if it's a product you actually use, that's the best way. So say you use Boyce knitting needles, and you do a tutorial using their knitting needles and you're happy with it, you can email them and say, listen, you just did this tutorial with your product, I think it's fabulous, just wanted to let you know. And they might say, well, would you like to do more tutorials? So that's if you don't want to come right out and ask, hey, I'd like a job, you know? Or, you know, other than that, you can actually, you know, email somebody and say, I'm really interested in your product. Do you need any bloggers or any YouTubers to make videos for you? And I mean, they'll say, yeah, sure, or no thanks. But nowadays I find that I just put out videos. A lot of times people just contact me and ask if they can send me some product to try out. Because nowadays companies, especially craft companies, there's not many places to advertise. The traditional magazines are few and far between. Yeah. Their ad rates are very expensive, and they get better press when actual crafters are using their products.
Definitely.
Like I noticed that because I design for several stamp companies, when I write an article and I use somebody's product, they get much more feedback and sales and mileage out of me using their stuff in an article than they do if they buy an ad. So it just also, you know, they get to see it in use. They know real people are using it. They haven't just paid to have somebody say this. So it's becoming probably the fastest way that companies advertise nowadays.
Word of mouth.
Yep, definitely. Definitely.
Okay. Your second question is Crafty Creative 2 writes, what are some fun and easy craft ideas that I can do with my children or at their school? Thanks, Asia.
Okay, well, there's lots of things that you can do with kids at school or at home. I try to bring in stuff when I'm in school. I try to bring in stuff that they might not get a chance to use otherwise. And it doesn't have to be expensive. One fun project is to make a newspaper basket, and I have a video on that. But this is just rolled up newspaper woven into a basket. It doesn't cost you anything. You know, you just need to recycle an old newspaper and a little bit of glue, and you can, you know, use watercolor paints on it to color it like I did. But it makes a useful little item, and you learn weaving. You can do cross-curriculum. If you're homeschooling, you could do cross-curriculum with like Native Americans or other cultures that do basket weaving. And it's, you know, it's fun and useful. If you went on Pinterest and you Googled like holiday crafts for kids, anything like that, you'd get a lot of inspiration that way. You can, I like to do mixed media, like maybe draw a picture with watercolors and paint over it with, draw a picture with crayons and paint over it with watercolors for a resist effect. Kids love clay. You can make your own clay for them to use. I have a recipe on my blog. The recipe really needs to be made by an adult because it does involve cooking, but it's it's a cold porcelain hybrid craft clay recipe. You can find that on my blog. I'll put a link below the video. And then the kids can sculpt with it, let it dry, and then paint it and make beads or make decorations. It's a lot more durable than the salt dough that kind of falls apart after a while. Or you can use Sculpey clay. There's so many different projects you can make with Sculpey clay. One of my favorites is to take a ballpoint pen, pull the pen part out, cover the pen with clay, decorate it however you like, and bake it, and then reinsert the pen. And that way you can always change it with other pens as it dries out. Nice. And it's beautiful. You can also take silverware and cover the handles with clay, and it makes great gifts or wonderful silverware for yourself. And it's great for people that may have arthritis or any sort of disabilities where they can't really hold a fine utensil that well, or for really young ones. So yeah, clay, painting, those are great things. All the kids love to do that. And any recycling crafts are always big hits with all age groups.
Excellent idea. I have to try that with my 3 boys.
Absolutely.
Okay, so next is from Kel M. Hi Lindsay, a great video as always. In previous posts you've said that Simple Green is an auto cleaner. Would you or any of you other wonderfully resourceful viewers be able to help me find an Australian equivalent? Thanks so much. Keep up the fabulous videos. They make my daily commute so much nicer.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I went to the Simple Green website, and they do sell in Australia. So go to simplegreen.com, and you'll see a list of countries at the bottom. Click on Australia, and then click on products or where to buy. See the products or where to buy, and there was at least 3 Australian chains that were listed, and probably about 8 in New Zealand that sell Simple Green, plus independent hardware stores sell Simple Green in Australia. So if you go to the website, you can find, I'm not familiar with any of the stores because I'm an American, but I'm sure you can find a store nearby that sells it. I don't know the equivalent. It's such a great product. I've used it for so many years, just in general cleaning, but mostly for my stamps and crafting cleaning. So I'd really recommend that. And they do sell it in Australia, so even if you can't walk into a store, I'm sure you can have it delivered.
Excellent. Jill asks, love this card. I want to start getting into using stamps more on my cards. Any suggestions on places to find cute, inexpensive sets? Also, what is the difference between the clear polymer and the cling rubber? Except the obvious.
Okay, clear stamps obviously are made, there are 2 different kinds of clear stamps. There's the photopolymer, and those are your more high quality stamp sets, are more expensive. They, the material is a little more porous, it grabs ink better, and if you open up a package and you smell it, it smells sweet. It definitely has an odor to it. Then there's silicone stamps, which silicone, if you've ever baked with silicone, you know the whole deal about silicone is that it repels stuff. So while it's soft and squishy like a stamp, it will repel your ink a little bit more. I use them too. They're just a little more difficult to stamp with. But those are the two differences between those 2 clear types of stamps. Silicone's also cheaper, and you'll find that in more of your big stamp companies like Inkadoo, the big craft, the ones that they sell the craft chains like Fiskars. Those are all the silicone-based cheaper stamps. You know, use them. They're fun, but they're a little bit more difficult to stamp with. But they're also cheaper, so you kind of have to weigh those 2 options. I find for line artwork or sentiments, the silicone's fine. When you have a lot of solid image that you want to stamp, the silicone's really hard to get a nice smooth stamped image. Cling rubber is, you have your rubber stamp, but instead of it being stuck to a wood block, it's just on cling cushion that you can stick onto a clear mount like this. So you use it just like you would a clear stamp. The disadvantage is you can't see through it, so you're kind of just hoping you get it in the right place, or you can use a stamp positioner to get it exactly where you want it. I'll be doing a tutorial with this, so just keep an eye out for that. I'm not going to show you how to use it here, but I prefer cling rubber if I can get it. It's usually a little bit more expensive. It's about the same cost as the high quality clear stamps, but rubber stamps last a long time and they give you a much crisper image. So if you wanted a really highly detailed image, you're better off to get it in rubber than clear, because it's going to stamp better. It's going to just, you're not going to distort it. Clear stamps are softer, so if you push too hard, it smudges and distorts. The rubber is pretty hard, so you can push really hard and it's not going to alter the effect of the lines. It's going to still look nice and crisp. So I use some of every kind. It just depends on, what you need for a particular project.
Just gonna try them all. See which
Try them all.
Yep.
If you're looking to start off a collection inexpensively, if you live in the United States, I recommend Joann Fabrics, and I would recommend it online because they often have 50% off stamps or 40% off, and then you can buy some, generic sentiment stamps like happy birthdays and thank yous. The Sugarloaf Company, and I've seen this at AC Moore recently. I know they sold to Dar East, but they had a set that had 10 little CD cases of stamps, and it had tons of sentiments, tons of everyday stuff. It was about $40, but you can use a coupon and get it for $20, and that was a great starter kit. It had a black ink pad, which was nothing to write home about, but it's there if you don't have anything else. And it had some stamp mounts, and it was a really great set to begin with because it had everything you need to make cards and do some Scrabble pages and get you started. So I would look for a kit that had most of what you wanted, then kind of get the more unique stamps afterwards.
Fantastic. So Kristen loves the video.
Yay!
And you mentioned using shrink plastic to make some Doctor Who themed pieces. Would you cover what works on it? I have colored with loads of inks in the past only to have it rub off.
All right, shrink plastic is awesome. You can use several things on it. What works best, I think, are permanent markers like Sharpies, Pro Markers, Copics. Colored pencils work really well. The advantage about colored pencils is that it's going to get darker as you shrink it. So when you shrink it, do I have one of my Doctor Who charms over here? I do. So there's my little TARDIS earrings that I did the tutorial on. I used a Pro Marker on this, which is a permanent marker. Colored pencils work great. If you're finding that your colored pencils aren't sticking, sand it with some fine sandpaper and then color it. That'll give it a little tooth so it can grab the color. Acrylic paint will work. Sometimes though, acrylic paint it'll give you a texture. So if you want it to have a rocky, granity texture, go with the acrylic paint, because when you shrink it up, the paint is going to shrink too, and it's going to give you a really rough, rocky feeling to it. Cool. You can use your Krylon pens, like those metallic pens. I would avoid dye-based ink and pigment ink because they're going to stay kind of greasy on the plastic.
Okay. So Priscilla also loves your Ask a Crafter sessions and all your videos. Recently, you showed a slip mat.
Silpat mat.
Yes, I am not a craft expert by any means.
That's all right.
I sit behind a computer and write all day. So I have never seen these and would like to know where to find one. Thanks for all the inspiration and shared knowledge.
Okay, this is a Silpat mat. Actually, I have it here because I'm getting ready to do a tutorial. It's a baking mat, and it's all silicone, but it does have a little bit of a waffly texture to it. And underneath it, and this is going to answer the next question coming down. Somebody wanted to know, did I put that on there? Did you just read that one?
This one.
Yeah. Oh yes. I think that was her. Lady, oh gosh, Sini, I'm butchering that name. I had a sheet of fun foam underneath it, so I'm just kind of answering that question too. But this is from a cooking store. I think my husband got it for me at Bed Bath & Beyond. I had some delusions of Martha Stewartness where I was going to do all this baking because she used a Silpat mat, and I had to have one too, and I realized it's never going to happen, so to the craft room it came, and it's been my stamping mat ever since. But I was in Christmas Tree Shop yesterday, and for $5.99 they have a pack of 2 silicone mats, because this thing's $20. Wow. So yeah, I would get the $5.99 Christmas Tree Shop version because you get 2, and one I think is this big and the other one's a little smaller. So that's what I would do, and you can paint on it and you can wipe the stuff away. And the ones at the Christmas Tree Shop they don't have this waffly texture, which will actually be good, I think, because this catches glitter and embossing powder, and it's kind of a pain to clean sometimes because of that. So that's what I would do. If you want the Silpat, it's $20 at your cooking store, but if you don't mind having a generic brand, go to Christmas Tree Shop and get 2 for $5.
Yeah, good deal.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lady C&E. We'll go with that.
That's probably right.
All right.
Yeah, the author, she can read,
yeah.
She can pronounce.
Yeah, I can. Hope you love your ATG mat, or ATG, excuse me, as much as I love mine. That is one tool I don't think I could live without. What did you put under your... Oh, you just answered that.
Yep, that was the foam mat. There was anything else there? Oh, and where do you buy it? Any craft store. It's about between 25 and 50 cents, depending on what size you get. It's there's different brand names. There's Foamies, Fun Foam, and generically it's just called craft foam. It's just a sheet of foam.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Julie. I have an Ask a Crafter question. I'm a supply hoarder. Love that.
Yes.
Can't have too many supplies.
We're there with you.
Yeah, exactly. Most specifically beads. I find myself holding back for that perfect project to use a supply, and because I don't want to waste it. But then I end up not making anything with it. I was wondering if you have the same difficulty at times. Do you have any suggestions on how to get over that and allow yourself to create with your supplies?
Well, I've got a harsh suggestion, and that would be to go on a spending freeze. Don't allow yourself to buy anything else until you've used up some of what you have. I know it can be really hard because we collect and we want to save it for that perfect project, but if you do that, something's always going to come along that you want to buy, and you're going to add it to the stash. Then you're going to forget what you had originally.
Definitely.
So just make yourself use it. You could always take something apart with beads. You can make a necklace and take it apart if you think of something better you want to do with it. So it's not like you've glued something down to a scrapbook page and you can't get it back up again. You can take something apart and make something else if you get tired of it. So I would say just use it, and sign up for craft fair. That'll get you using your supplies, and then put a price on there that you wouldn't mind to part with your jewelry for. And if it doesn't sell, well, then you get to keep it. And if it does sell, then you can buy more beads. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, like reward yourself.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
yeah.
So Tina Klopfer, I'm going to go with that. Sorry if I messed up your name. Hi, thank you so much for sharing all of your clever, thrifty, and inspiring advice each week. I have 5 questions about alcohol and water-based markers. So, number 1.
Whew.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Lay it on me.
I'd love to own a bunch of Copics, but they're so dang pricey, so I only have a few. Are there any affordable alcoholic, that was good. That's good. There's nothing in this coffee, I promise.
That you know of.
That you know, can't tell. About alcohol and water-based, where am I? See? Lost track. Any affordable markers and blender pens that work as well, or close to Copics?
Oh, absolutely. There are so many good brands of markers on the market today. Copics are the most expensive, and they're the most expensive because they're the most popular. They are fabulous markers. However, the Tria markers by Letraset, I believe, are a little better, and they cost quite a bit less. I've seen them at the, I think it's Carpe Diem store online, for about $2 a marker. And they have the brush tip on one end, they have the chisel on the other. Actually, I can probably grab you one to show you because I have some Trias. I think I kept them. Yep, I got one right here. So this is a Tria marker. It's not too exciting because it's just cream, but on one end you have a chisel, and you also have, there's 2 caps on this one end, and you have the super fine liner. And then on the other end you have the brush tip. And this is refillable. You can either get the inks, or you can actually take out the ink cartridge in the center and refill that. So it is a never throw away marker. And it's got a clear barrel so you can actually see the exact ink color. They also make a line called Pro Markers. It's the exact same ink, but it's more affordable. And they have the little ends that you can put on the end of the chisel marker if you want to have the fine line. The Pro Markers are available in a brush tip or a bullet tip, so depending on your illustration style, what you prefer. And they're not refillable, but they are actually usually around $2 a piece, but sometimes you can get them lower. Prismacolor are very compatible to the Pro Marker. They're about the same. If you want to go really low budget, you can go with the Bic Markets or Sharpies, and you can use like a Prismacolor blending pen or a Copic blending pen, because they're all alcohol-based inks. The Pro Markers have airbrush compatibility, and their airbrush I think is like $15 versus a $60 Copic airbrush. And you can use it with an air compressor, not have to get the canned air if you don't want to, or you can use canned air, it's up to you. There's so many great marker brands. I know Dick Blick has a studio line. I haven't used that, but I've heard that's decent. But I would try. I think the Trias are as good as, if not better, as Copics, and they're a lot cheaper. They retail for the same price as Copics retail for, but you can buy them from like Carpe Diem and other stores for around $2, $2.50 each. That's my furnace, but I'm going to keep on rolling. I'm not going to worry about that. It's not that loud. So that would be my choice, yeah, you can use any blender pen. So if you get a set of the 36 Bic Markets for, $14, then you can use a Copic clear blending pen or a Prismacolor blending pen, which is $4, regular price, and you can lighten up your colors and blend them and get a really good range of colors, and then spend some money on some lighter shades of Prismacolor or Pro Marker or Tria so that you can kind of bridge the gap. But they all play nice. The only marker that's not going to mix with these are the Chart Pack. markers. Those are xylene based and they're for other techniques. So they're good markers too, but they're not going to blend with your alcohol markers. So
Okay.
what was the next one, Sheena?
Number 2 was, do you have a recipe to make blender pen solution and how to use it with a brush?
Absolutely. Actually, I'll get my can of it right over here. It's alcohol. Oh, good grief. I just destroyed the display. Denatured alcohol. The only thing you want to remember about this is ethanol, but it's had a poison added to it so people don't drink it. So when you buy the Copic blending solution, you're buying ethanol. So you should not spray apply this. So if you use this for something, do not put it in an airbrush or an airbrush machine, or even a spritzer bottle, because it contains poison, so people don't buy this at the hardware store and get drunk. I store mine in a little vodka bottle. So if you're at my house, don't drink from the little vodka bottles that are in my craft room.
Good tip.
Yeah, good tip. Don't put that in your coffee.
Yes, I'll keep that one out. So why is it best to store Copics flat as opposed to standing them in a container? Do water-based markers need to be stored flat too? That's a cool question.
They do, especially if they're double-ended. We just step in a little bit there. You're going
Okay,
off.
there we go.
Let me show you, all these markers are double-ended. So the ink is in the center of the marker. So if we store it on its end, then all the ink is going to flow down here, and this end is not going to have any. Same if we do it the other way. So you need to have both ends ready to go, and you need the ink to be ready at both ends. So that's why you store it flat. And any double-ended marker, it's a good idea to store flat. Even the single-ended ones, because you don't want the ink to drip and pool out of the end of your marker. So that is why.
Okay. 4. What is the best stamp ink to use with alcohol or water-based markers?
Well, there's 2 different inks. If you're using the alcohol-based markers, you want to use Memento, and it comes in a variety of different colors. I generally use Rich Cocoa and Tuxedo Black for stamping an image to color. For watercolor markers, you have a little personal preference here. I prefer Stampin' Up! Basic Black because it's black, but it's not really, really dark. So if I'm doing a watercolor technique, I want my colors to stand out and not my stamped lines. But a lot of people don't find that black is black enough. So they prefer Ranger Archival Black, and that is also waterproof. Some people prefer to use StazOn. I only use StazOn when I'm stamping on a non-porous surface because I don't care for that ink that much, but you can use StazOn ink to stamp on watercolor paper or cardstock, and then use watercolor markers because that is solvent-based and it will not smudge with the watercolor paints.
Okay. And Tina's last question. Any tips for using alcohol water markers over laser printed versus inkjet printed images?
Okay, any of the alcohol markers you can use on inkjet printed images or laser printed images without smudging. Watercolor markers you can use over laser printed images and they won't smudge. So if you have something you've just printed off on your printer and you want to paint it or use watercolor markers, you need to seal that somehow. One of my favorite ways is to take a clear colored pencil. It's called a colorless blender pencil and it's made by Prismacolor. And I sharpen it and I just draw over all the lines. And then you can paint, and that clear wax in the pencil creates a resist. Or sometimes if I'm feeling sneaky, I'll just change a color of something I print to like a green or a red of the colors that I'm going to color it with anyway, so then if it does bleed, then it looks like a painting. So,
okay. So Sharon Harris, she's watching Ask a Crafter. She thinks it's like watching a comedy TV show, which it is, I agree. She loves it, and she especially enjoys the information from so many areas of crafting. And by the way, crafters from New Mexico are also friendly. And Lorraine, you're a doll. Remember that. The perfect wingman or straight man to Lindsay. I live in the country too with dogs, chickens, sheep, and alpacas. My question is, do you have any ideas for including alpaca fiber on cards other than yarn as a ribbon replacement?
What about felting it? Like they have the little needle felt kits in the craft store. It basically looks like a bristle brush, kind of like a hairbrush or a dog brush or a scrubby brush. And you could dye the alpacas with Kool-Aid, different colors, and then you could felt a design. You could use a cookie cutter to kind of lay your felt down onto the brush. And then, and I've never done this, by the way, I'm just kind of like talking out of my butt here. And then you could like felt a pretty embellishment like a flower or something like that and then put that on a card.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would do.
Okay, the novice in me has to ask, you're actually going to dye an alpaca, or are you talking about...
No, you get the fur off first. You comb it, I think. You comb it or shear it or whatever, then you just dye.
Okay.
Well, it's Kool-Aid. It's not like it would hurt the alpaca.
Well, no, but I was thinking you could do it in rainbow colors.
Good idea.
Your alpacas and take a picture. Send it to me.
Absolutely.
But okay.
Send them a book for that.
I would send
Somebody dyes their alpacas.
Exactly. I would.
That'd go viral on Pinterest.
That would. So Cat Sky absolutely loves both you and Lorraine. So helpful and great laughs besides. My question is this. When you are using a digi-stamp and printing it out to use for watercolor, how do you keep the ink from smearing? She's tried sealing with various things, but anything wet causes it to smear. Help, please.
Oh, well the same technique as we just mentioned with the colorless blender. It's I've actually got one here. I'll show you. I think, well, yeah, right here. Right here. This is what it looks like. It's the Prismacolor colorless blender, and it is you can kind of tell it apart. It says it right on there, colorless blender, but it's also just has a plain wood colored handle. All the other ones are varnished in their color. It's about $1.50 at your art supply store, and they're great. And you can use it to blend colored pencils too. So it's just a great tool to have. So it's Prismacolor 1077, PC 1077 if you want the product number.
Okay. So Katie BTPS, we'll go with that, says, hello lovely ladies.
Hello Katie.
I love heat embossing, and I'm wondering if there's a way to heat emboss without stamps. What I'd like to do is paint a pattern onto the paper and sprinkle the powder over it. But what should I use at the embossing medium? Would painting with ink from an embossing ink pad work, or could I use some other wet substance? By the way, she's in the UK, and I don't have access to things like glycerin. Thanks so much, Katie.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not so sure you don't have access to glycerin, but you probably need to buy it from a pharmacist, or drugstore chemist. I know the weird lingo.
Yeah.
They should have in the drugstore. It should be, if you get really desperate, you can get some glycerin suppositories and crack them open and use that. It's glycerin. Or if you can't get that at a stamp store, you can buy, basically it's glycerin, but it costs 10 times more. It's called embossing ink, clear embossing ink. And yeah, you could dip your brush in it and paint with that. It's the same substance that you'd find on a clear ink pad. You might even be able to find it in the cooking, in like the baking section of a grocery store, because people use it to do candy making, vegetable glycerin. But that's the best thing to use. You can use any embossing ink. You could paint a design with that. They make markers. Marvi Uchida makes a marker. It's called Wet Looks, and you can draw with that and you can emboss it. There are calligraphy markers. I know I have some. I'll grab it, see if I can give you a brand name here. Lorraine gets irritated when I walk off the camera.
Yeah. I can understand.
Embossing. They're called Emboss Dual Pens. They're made by Sukaniko. And you can actually use the bullet tip to draw a picture, or you can use a chisel tip to do calligraphy, and sprinkle your powder on. If you have a really juicy marker, like a really juicy brush tip marker, you could use that. You got to be kind of quick, but yeah, there's lots of options. You might even go into an art supply store. They should have glycerin too. Cake decorating stores will have glycerin. It'll be in like a tiny little bottle. I know Wilton makes it in the States. I don't know if you have Wilton brand in the UK, but it's a staple for cake decorating. So I'm sure it's there. You just need to figure out where you can find it locally. But glycerin is so useful for everything in the craft room that I think everyone should have a gallon of it. It's just so awesome. And you might be able to order it from a chemist online. I know in the United States we can order from the chemistry store and we can buy it by the gallon, super cheap. So just hunt around a little bit. I'm sure you'll be able to find it. If anybody else is in the UK that can tell her where she can find it, leave a comment, please. And you check your comments, and then you'll be able to find it.
All right. So Clam says, you both are so much fun to watch. Loves all the videos. Would love to see you do a watercolor of a vintage Santa.
I will add it to my list. I get a lot of requests, and but my list is growing, so I do my best, and I will try to put that on there.
That would be cool.
Yeah, it would be kind of fun.
Melody, Lindsay and Lorraine, I love the Ask a Crafter series. You're both entertaining and knowledgeable. My question is, as all of us can see in the videos that you have a mega amount of supplies, how do you keep track of what you have? Do you have a system so that you don't buy duplicates when at a store, or so that you can determine if you have what you need before a project is started? Thanks, Melody.
Okay, Melody, I am a big believer in having basic supplies on hand, because if you have your basics, you can substitute. So say I want to do a journal page that I saw somebody else do a tutorial on, but they used pan pastels. Well, I have other pastels, so I could substitute that. Or I see somebody using gouache in a video. Well, I can use poster paint. You know, I mean, I have a lot of basic supplies that can be, that can make do, because there's an infinite amount of supplies you can buy, but really they all come down to basic ingredients. And if you have those basics on hand, you can pretty much make whatever you want. Glycerin is one of those basic ingredients. Like, I make my own embossing ink by using glycerin and gouache paint, so I don't have to go out and buy inks. So I have a lot of these basic supplies, so I can replenish as I use things up. I store my stamps. I've done a whole video on how I store my stamps, but they're in binders, so I can flip through. Like, if I know I want to make a Christmas card, or say I want to go to your house and we're going to do a big card making Pinterest party, nice. I could bring my binder full of Christmas. We ought to do that.
We should do that.
Yeah, we totally should. Okay, so I'll bring over my binder of stamps.
All right.
And I have everything right there. So when I'm at the store looking at Christmas stamps, I can think, oh, you know, I got one just like that, or I have one similar enough. Or if I see a project that I love, I can say, oh, I'm going to go look in my binder of Christmas stamps before I, you know, order a stamp or go to the store to see if I have something that will make do. So having your supplies very well organized will keep you from having to buy duplicates, because you know right offhand what you have, or you can quickly check. Like, if I want a stamp of a marigold, I go, well, let me go see what I have in my folders, my flowers binder, before I buy that. And then I can make a, you know, I can say, yes, this will make do, or no, I need to buy one. So being very organized. I keep all my like supplies together, so like all my decorative edge scissors are in a bucket. I can quickly look in there and see if I have a particular one. If I don't, then I can add it to my list. I rarely impulse buy, and that helps avoid duplicates. I think the only duplicates I've ever acquired are because I impulse bought something, and it was kind of like on the way out, and like, oh, embossing folder for $1.50. Well, even if I don't have it, I can gift it to somebody. So, you know, that's the only time I have got a duplicate. So it just comes down to being very well organized and using your supplies often so that you don't forget what you have.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
And you're very well organized in here. So.
Pretty well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the little crafter. I'm also confused about UK paperweights. 360
grams per square meter,
okay.
I found out.
Okay, I didn't know paper weighed anything, so I'll let you take this one.
Okay.
As a heavy and sturdy paperweight, what is the weight of light, medium, and heavy weight?
Okay. Well, the only reason I know that GSM stands for grams per square meter is because Anna Orsman left a comment, and I made sure to write this down.
Nice.
So it relates to how much a square meter of the paper or cardstock weighs. So it's not as straightforward as just converting grams to pounds, as the physical size of the paper used to make the initial calculation is different as well. Because like in the United States, we have a poundage or a point grade on each of our papers. So, you know, you have 110 pound cardstock, you have 60 pound cover stock. It's not always, they don't always equal out, but it's a pretty level playing field as far as American paper weights. But if you go to the website papersizes.org, then you can click paper weights, and you can find charts for how they convert, because they have different scales. So like typing paper, bond paper is on a different scale than like watercolor paper or cover stock or card stock. So it's very confusing the way the British people do their paper. Oh my gosh, a metric system and extra U's in their words. It's so complicated. But go to that website, papersizes.org, and you'll find all the information you need. There's several handy charts you can print out and, you know, keep in your paper folder or whatever. So thank you, Anna Orsman, for setting the foolish American straight.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, what's the next one?
Angela Hartley. I would love to learn to sew. I am 58, which means make it simple. Do you have any sewing 101 videos?
I do. If you go to my channel, if you just click my name, The Frugal Crafter, like under this video, it'll take you to my channel. And if you scroll down, I have a sewing playlist, and I have several very basic sewing tutorials. One is how to use a sewing machine, and it's very basic, and it's using this older Kenmore machine here. So there's no bells and whistles, it's very basic. But most sewing machines run about the same, so you should be able to get started from that tutorial. Then I have a 10-minute skirt tutorial, and it literally takes 10 minutes to make the skirt. It's really great. It only takes 3/4 of a yard of fabric, so it's awesome. And then I've got like a couple hair accessory videos, and a couple like how to sew a shopping bag caddy, and you know, just a couple really simple things, but it will get you started, and then you can you know, get some patterns or make some other crafts or whatever you like to do after that. But it'll get you going. So
fantastic. So Dinosaur, can you use a Stamp-A-Majig with a Mega Mount? Was wondering how this would work since it isn't flat. Sort of rolls when you stamp with it. I've started to buy one several times, but then hesitated because some of the big background stamps need to be lined up, like plaids, when I'm using them on paper. That will become an envelope, which is larger than standard card size.
Okay, I hesitated. When I went to my first stamp show, one of the things I went for was a mega mount. This right here, and I almost left without it. And one of my best friends, she goes, "Are you kidding me? You drove 100 miles, I don't know, down to Massachusetts. How many miles? That was 200 miles, or you drove 5 hours, and that's the one thing you were talking about, and you're hemming and hawing over it." And so I went back. Like, last place I went with the stamp positioner, but I do think you can now because I think it starts off with a square of plexiglass, and the sides are at 90-degree angles, and then as it's curved, the curve is still a 90-degree angle. So I think you can actually rock it against the stamp positioner. But I'm going to do a video and test it out. I think you can for lining up big backgrounds. So we'll keep an eye out for that video. It should come along the next day or two, and we'll put it to the test. I think you're going to be able to.
Okay. Next one is Monith from the Philippines. Loves your Ask a Crafter. You almost know everything about crafting. Thanks for sharing your beautiful ideas. I'm planning to buy a big kick butt, but I do not have any dies or embossing folder. Can you give me an idea what to buy first? Big kick or dies and embossing folder first, because I don't have budget to buy a big kick and dies at the same time. Hope you can help me what to do. Thank you so much in advance.
Okay, a Big Kick is a brand of embossing machine. It's very much like the Big Shot. I'd actually say it's about the same thing, except the Big Kick kind of has a couple little indents on the bottom, but it's about the same machine. I've had this for 6 years, and it's still growing strong. I use it every day. And then embossing folders are these guys here that you put paper in, and it makes it all textured when you take it out. And then you can also get dies, so you can cut your paper into different shapes. You can use an embossing folder without that machine, though. So if you were, you could get some embossing folders and, spritz your paper with water and put your paper in and then roll over it with a rolling pin. It won't be as deeply embossed as using the machine, but it will work. So if you want to get something now that you can use, I get the folders first. You can't use the dies without the machine. So I think I would get the machine before I'd buy the dies. And I don't know in the Philippines how many you probably have to pay through the nose down there because you don't have the big stores with the coupons. Because I think that machine's probably about $90. So you can use a coupon here and get it for 40 or 50. So I'd probably get the embossing folders first because you can still play with those without the machine. Then I'd get the machine, and then after that I would get some dies. So that's the order that I would go in. Okay. And I will give you a tip: the Big Shot has a better warranty than the Big Kick. The Big Shot has a year, and the Big Kick I think is 3 months warranty. Other than that, I think it's the same machine. But it was, I think, 2 companies converged, and the Big Kick came from Sizzix and the Big Shot came from Ellison, and I think that might be why. Just 2 different companies' warranties.
Fantastic. Donna Bright Sparks. Hi, Lindsay and Lorraine. Really enjoying your Ask a Crafter. I'm learning heaps, so thanks for taking the time to share your knowledge with all of us. My question is, I would like to cut some...
Hey San, I think.
Hey San. On my Cuttlebug without it falling apart. What could I use on it to stop this happening? Many thanks in advance, and I so love those coffee cups. Cheers, you might like them even more today.
Yeah. The questionable coffee cups. Okay, so I'm not probably not pronouncing it right. Hey San, it's a burlap type material. Okay. It's a loosely woven natural fiber, kind of like abaca fiber, or it's just very jute. I think it's made from jute. So when you die cut it or you cut it, it tends to want to fray along the edges. So what I would do is I would take 2 layers of it, because I'm assuming you want it to still retain its transparency. You want to be able to see through it, keep that lacy, holey look to it. So take 1 piece of the burlap, I'm going to say burlap, but abaca, whatever you're using, and then on top of that lay a piece of either fusible web or just plain kitchen plastic saran wrap type plastic wrap, and then put another layer on top. Then cover it with a sheet of parchment paper and iron it, and then you'll fuse 2 layers together, and that plastic is going to keep any of the any of those stray pieces from fraying when you die cut it. Then you'll end up with a sturdy embellishment after you die cut. If you don't want you might have a little bit of a shiny look to the plastic, of the plastic wrap, so fusible web probably would be better. But if you want something to experiment with, plastic wrap is a heck of a lot cheaper, and the plastic might even melt in between the holes, so you might not even see it. But that's what I would do. Just make sure you use a piece of parchment paper to iron on, so you don't ruin your iron. You don't get the plastic bit stuck to it. So yeah,
Okay.
that should die cut good after that.
So Queen Finn, hey there, Lindsay. I was wondering if you could tell me the difference between the Big Shot and the Big Kit. And she says, thank you for your awesomeness. Which
you're
I
welcome.
agree. She's awesome. And it's from Erin.
Okay, cool. The Big Shot and the Big Kick, they're virtually the same machine, except I'll show you. I pointed it out before, but the Big Shot, it has a flat platform, and the Big Shot, if you get the Stampin' Up! One, it's the same thing. Big Shot has been licensed to under several different lines, so you can get the Big Shot in different colors. You can get it through different companies. Vintage makes it, like, for jewelry makers. I think there's Stampin' Up! Makes it for their catalog, but it's the same machine. This is a 1-year warranty, and if you're in the States, you can buy it through a big box craft store and save 40 or 50% with a coupon. The Big Kick has a couple grooves cut out, and it was probably done for structural abilities and also to maybe save some weight. So the Big Kick might be a little bit lighter. Big Kick has a 3-month warranty, I do believe, at least according to the Joann website. But they basically take the exact same dies. They'll take any consumer grade die, which means they will not take the AccuCut dies. Only like the professional grade machines will take the AccuCut dies. But this will pretty much take anything that you could buy at a craft store, anything available to consumers. I've had this for 6 years. The only trouble I had once, the handle came loose, so there's a little spot I used an Allen wrench to tighten it up. Once I got a die stuck in it because I put it in kitty corner, and so I had to unscrew it on the bottom and loosen it up. No, it's got the little inspection date, 2005. I've had it longer than that. Wow, we're going on, let's see, this is going on 8 years actually. Oh my gosh, time flies when you're using your dies. You can use it with all your embossing folders. You can use it with a little letterpress system. You can make your own letterpress platform for it. It's a wonderful little machine. I would go with the Big Shot just because I've used it for so long and I can recommend it, and it has a longer warranty. So other than that, that's the only difference, I think. And you don't have to crank it as long as you do like the spellbinders you have to do, and the Cuttlebug you have to do way more cranks to get your die through. This is like very well engineered. So they're both the same machine, except the Big Shot I've used it and it has a longer warranty. So that's the only thing I know as far as the difference.
So Melly Eisen.
Yeah, she's a regular commenter.
Excellent. Can I use my stamps to stamp on material, cotton and or canvas type tote? And if so, what kind of ink? And can you paint it? And if so, with what? Thanks so much. Of course, you're awesome. And she is.
I love these people. Yes, you can stamp on fabric. Your bolder stamps are going to work better. Foam stamps work great on fabric. The chunkier the design, the better you're going to get for an impression, and the smoother the fabric, the better you're going to get for an impression. So if you're using like a rough cotton, like ducked canvas type material, you don't want to go in with a really detailed stamp. It's not going to show up. It's going to skip on all the little bumps in the fabric. You'd want to use like a chunky foam stamp. If you're going on a nice smooth linen, you could use a pretty detailed stamp on that. As far as ink, you could use any pigment ink, and you want to put a pressing cloth or parchment paper and iron it to heat set it. They used to make these ink pads called Fabrico, but I don't think they make them anymore, but any pigment-based pad should work. You can also use a makeup sponge and just dab on some acrylic paint, just lightly dab it on there, and stamp with that, or stamp it on with fabric paint. And then paint with any acrylic or fabric paint. If you use regular acrylic paint, use a little fabric medium in it. That just makes it a little stretchier, so that when someone's pulling a shirt on or stretching it, it's not going to crack the paint. It'll move with it. And fabric medium is made by any of the paint manufacturers. I know Ceramcoat makes it. I think Folk Art makes it. It's a pretty basic medium that you can get. It's not very expensive. But yeah, stamp with pigment ink or acrylic paint, and then just paint it with acrylic paint. You'll be good to go.
Fantastic. Terry Daly. Hi, Lindsay. I love your Ask a Crafter series. Your information and energy are awesome. You're very good at teaching and explaining things. Thanks so much for sharing your knowledge with us. No question.
You're welcome.
Just an awesomeness.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Your awesomeness. Or maybe this is
those questions are from you.
Oh, so Terry has a few. Okay.
Yeah, two.
I inherited some awesome kind of shiny or metallic looking paper gift bags. The long, skinny size that one would give wine in. They are made of heavy paper and have little handles on them. However, I don't drink wine and don't usually give wine or alcohol as a gift. If I cut them down, I lose the cute little handles. There's got to be many ways I could use them. Do you have any inspirational ideas you could share with me? Thanks so much.
Yeah, I think one thing I would do is I would chop it kind of in half and then glue the bottom of the top half together so you still have a little bag with the handles and use that to put gift cards in. You can hang them right on the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And the metallic, so it'd be perfect for Christmas or Hanukkah. And, well, you wouldn't have a tree if you had Hanukkah. Oh my gosh, digging a hole here.
Holidays.
Sorry. Holidays. Hang them somewhere for holidays. And you have a little gift card holder. You can even put a little tissue paper, like, oh shoot, I already packaged it. But I had some little gift card holders that were like a little bag with a little tissue paper sticking up. And it's just very easy and cute and easy to, actually, you know what? I do have it right here. Ready to package. Haven't made it into a baggie yet. But see, this is just my little,
so cute.
that I made with the Too Much Fun stamps that I got at the last stamp show. But you know, if you cut the top of those bags off, about this long, then you could have a place that you could stick a little gift card in and stick a little tissue in there, and you know, even put a little note, decorate it up, and you have a cute little gift card holder. And then the bottom of the bags you can punch holes and put ribbon in, and then you have a little gift bag again. So you can get kind of 2 for 1 there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have any ideas what you could do with that? Any crafts or?
Well, I do enjoy wine gifts, so there may be somebody out there who might like wine, so probably not.
No.
Okay.
Put wine in it, send it our way.
Exactly for that craft night.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna make our Christmas cards.
That's right. May or may not look normal when they come down. Okay. So the second one is I have always been bow tying challenged. Oh, I have been too. I'm looking forward to this. Okay. I used to have one of those easy bow making contraptions, which I honestly never figured out how to use, and it was so bulky. I just gave it away. I will typically just make bows out of curly ribbon because that's all I know how to do. I don't usually like pre-made bows as they are cheap looking, and the really nice pre-made bows are too expensive. I have tried wire ribbon with limited success. Regular and gross
Grain.
Okay. With no success, and the smaller silky type ribbon I can't even keep in my hand. Any tips or a tutorial on easy, cute bows and or what kinds of ribbon should be used? Love your channel.
Oh, cool. Yeah, if you look at a lot of those bow making contraptions, a lot of times what you have is you have like a little wood base and you've got dowels that you can move into different holes, and so you could put them close together to make a small ribbon or further apart to make a large ribbon. But I'll show you a little tip here that I do sometimes when I need a ribbon. I'll take any old box and I'll stick a couple clothespins on it. I don't remember the clothespins here, but I'll just grab my little ink blender here. So I stick a couple clothespins on the edge of the box. And then I figure 8 weave my ribbon around the clothespin. So if I want a triple bow, I'll weave it around 3 times. So I've got 3 loops. And then I'll cut another piece of ribbon and I'll tie it in the center. And then when I take the clothespins off and remove my ribbon, all I have to do is fluff it, and I've got a perfectly symmetrical bow.
Fantastic.
It's so easy. To do teeny ones, you could use a fork. You could use, and if you just search fork bow on Pinterest, you'll see so many tutorials on that. It's kind of a trendy thing right now. But you could take a little jar and put the pins close together. You could put them further apart. It's free. You can't beat that. Yeah, just clothespins on the side of a box.
All right. So it's Snoopy again.
Oh, great.
Hello.
Hello, Snoopy.
I don't mean to be a question hog, and you don't have to post my question on your segment, but we're going to. So another question for you, and I'm hoping to use the answer on my holiday cards. No pressure.
Oh boy.
I recently discovered that if I tack some twine down in the center of a gloober and wrapped it around itself on the gloober, it circles and made a fantastic lollipop, which goes great with gingerbread house stamps on a card. Gloobers are expensive though, and they really are just flat glue dots. I was thinking of using the Aleene's tack it over and over again to make some, but how would I get them to be flat? They need to be uniform thickness for the lollipop, not to be too wonky. Any thoughts on crafting? Oh, crafting genius.
No, I feel like you're reading another language there.
Yes, I was like, what? Okay.
Okay, yes. I make my own gloobers, and here's a card where I made a rose on one of my own gloobers there. Okay, so to get them perfect circles, so they're basically like a big sticky dot, like a glue dot, big sticky dot. And then you can like kind of twist ribbon and wrap it around and make your own flowers or lollipops or whatever. So what you want to do is just get a piece of typing paper or anything, and either print or trace a bunch of circles, perfect circles. Trace, yogurt cup lid or a film canister or whatever you have that's a circle, or just print out some circles from the clip art from the internet, and then put a piece of wax paper on top of that. And then when you squirt your glue, follow the line of the circle and then fill it in, because then you'll get a perfect circle. Let it dry overnight, and your Gloober will be ready to use the next day.
Fantastic. Gloober.
Gloober.
I need to use that in my books. Okay.
It's probably copyrighted and trademarked.
Yeah,
though.
it probably is. Gloober. Okay. So Laura Williams says, "Hi, Lindsay and Lorraine. Thank you for your Ask a Crafter installments. I've not long been subscribed, but I love them and find you both not only very informative, but so endearing to watch." Agree. I'm just starting out in the card making world, and I'm currently feeling very overwhelmed with everything that's currently on the market. What would you both recommend to a beginner as a basic setup for card making? I live in the UK, so I'm not able to always access the beautiful stamps you showcase, but I'd love to know what you'd recommend as a starter kit. Thank you, Laura.
All right. So a lot of times I'll just bring a limited amount of supplies to a craft, like go to a crop, or even just to take upstairs. So because I want to like craft and hang out with my husband as he watches football, or con him into making bulk Christmas cards with me.
Does it work?
Yes, he's much more agreeable when the football game's on.
Yes.
So my basic supplies would be craft cardstock, which is that kind of like a brown paper bag color. It's flattering for almost every pattern paper.
Definitely.
Cream cardstock and white cardstock. And then I don't know about your availability for papers in the UK. In the United States, we can get these big stacks of 180 sheets of pattern paper for like $10 on sale. It's crazy. So if you have availability like that, I would grab a stack of paper that you like. And the 12 by 12 is nice because what I do a lot of times is I'll make an envelope. I'll use my Create-A-Lope envelope maker. And after I make my envelope, I have a couple strips of paper left over that I can layer onto my card base. So I get the matching envelope and the decorative panels for my card all out of one sheet of paper. So I would recommend an envelope template like the Create-A-Lope. If you can get that, I know you can get that in the UK. I don't know if you have to buy it through Create and Craft, but somebody told me they could buy it in the UK. And I would pick like an A2 size, because then you can get 2 cards from your standard sheet of paper. I know your papers are a little bit longer. We have the 8.5 by 11, and I think theirs is like 8.5 by 11.5.
Oh, okay.
There's a little bit longer, but you can get 2 cards from one sheet of cardstock. And then if you can get the envelope plus the decorative layer from a sheet of pattern paper, it's a great way to maximize your supplies and have that matching envelope. Envelopes are kind of expensive in the United States anyway, so I'm assuming they're probably very expensive in the UK. So if you can make your own and get double use out of that paper, that's great. Then you won't have as many scraps lying around that you don't know what to do with. I would recommend getting black ink, and I would recommend getting like a waterproof black ink, so you can use your colored pencils or your watercolors, and also like a Memento black ink, so that you can use any alcohol markers. If you're just starting out, I don't think I would push you into the alcohol marker world, because you have to have a lot more alcohol markers to get blends and get a pretty effect, when you could do the same for like a 10 of 12 watercolor pencils. So I think I would get a waterproof black ink pad, such as Ranger Archival or Stampin' Up. I know they sell Stampin' Up in the UK. There's demonstrators. I'm sure if you're a Stampin' Up demonstrator in the UK, I know we have one that watches quite frequently, Cardiff Crafter. If you want to just say how to do in the comments, if she needs that, she can she can call you. But I know there's Stampin' Up demos in the UK. So I'd get a basic black ink pad. I would get the cardstock in those 3 colors that I mentioned. You can even get those in Stampin' Up too. They make beautiful cardstocks. And I would get a tin of watercolor pencils. And as far as stamps, go with what you really like. I would get a sentiment stamp, so you can make your happy birthday and your congratulations and all those cards. And then I would pick some images that you really like. I mean, it's going to be different for everybody. You may prefer cutesy, you may prefer vintage. Buy a few stamps that you like, and build slowly as you go along with the craft. Some people kind of go crazy and they buy all kinds of stuff right off the bat and they don't know what to do with it. So build your collection slowly. A stack of pattern paper that you like, those 3 cardstock colors, black ink pad, and watercolor pencils. You're going to be good to go. You're going to be able to do a lot with those supplies.
Fantastic. That Panda Lady says, hi, I'm Lindsay and Lorraine. I want to thank you from merry old England for all your help and can-do attitude. I'm going to be cheeky and ask 2 questions.
Ooh, be cheeky. I like the cheek.
Only one is craft related.
Okay.
I think I know the answer to this first one. I'm asking this first question as I can't believe no one else has yet. And as a fellow geek, it needs to be asked. Who is your favorite doctor and why?
Oh boy. Okay. Well, Christopher Eccleston is my first Doctor, the Doctor Who series, and it just broke my heart when he regenerated. I was like, no! I love Christopher Eccleston because he was just. Could you pick a more nerdy looking guy? But there was just something about him.
Yep.
I love Christopher Eccleston.
Yep.
But David Tennant is awfully handsome, and he's got, you know, the cute little haircut and the geeky glasses and. Yeah, I like Tennant too. And then you got Matt Smith, who's just so innocent and adorable. But, it's a toss-up between Eccleston and Tennant, I think. Do you watch Doctor Who?
I do.
Who's your favorite Doctor?
I think I like Matt Smith.
You like Matt Smith?
I do.
He is adorable.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Tennant and Eccleston. I don't know. I think David Tennant seems a little bit more easy to get along with, you know, because Eccleston would have his little fits every once in a while.
Yeah.
And be fed up with humans and their destructive tendencies. On record.
Second, this must be the craft question.
Okay.
I've had trouble with some pigment ink pads drying. I've left them for a week and dried them with a heat gun, but no success. They still smudge. Shall I just reserve these for heat embossing only and give up? Any chance you could show us how to make a dye-based ink? I haven't much money to go and buy new supplies. Thank you so much, Fiona.
Okay, I've had that problem too, and it does seem to be kind of like the lower grade ink pads that will have that problem with them not drying. We have a brand in the United States called Ink It Up, and you see it at like Walmart and AC Moore, and it's the dollar ink pads, and you know, we all pick them up because it's a great way to start a collection, but they do tend to take a long time to dry. I think because they're a little stingy with the color, and I don't think they're using real pigment. I think they're using a dye, and they're using glycerin to kind of keep it wet so you can emboss with it. But I found if I just add some artist gouache, it can be the student grade, doesn't even have to be the artist grade, and I just add that to the ink pad, kind of squish it in with a credit card, just kind of smush it in there really good, then it becomes a much more usable drying ink pad. So artist gouache, you can get a set of 12 for less than $10 in the craft store. Reeves brand makes a decent brand, and if you happen to live in the United States, use a coupon and get it for less, and you can mix any color you want. I make all my own pigment ink. I never buy the pigment reinkers. As far as making dye-based ink, that is harder to replicate. I usually will buy a dye-based re-inker when I buy an ink pad, and most of my dye ink pads I get are Stampin' Up! Brand. I think their ink is really good, and it really works for the style of stamping I do. I don't want to be a Stampin' Up! Commercial. I'm not a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, but I do think their quality is really good. Yep. I also like the quality of Memento dye-based ink, and that you can get in the store. But if I have to formulate one, because like my kids have ink pads and they're always running dry because they use them a lot or they leave the lid off, I take the Blick liquid watercolors and I re-ink their ink pads with that. If you need to thicken it up, like say you want to re-ink your distress ink pads, and my distress ink pads I don't typically use for stamping, I use for like with my color dusters to ink edges. I can use a Dick Blick watercolor, liquid watercolor with a little glycerin in it because it thickens it a little bit and doesn't dilute it, and I'll use that to re-ink my distress inks as well. And you could buy your basic mixing colors and you can kind of mix quite a variety of colors. That said, I would never do that for my Stampin' Up! Ink pads that I rely on for stamping. I think that the best investment you can make is to buy that re-inker with a stamp pad, so that way it's like having 5 stamp pads because you can re-ink it like 5 times, so you get a lot more use out of that. If you botch up re-inking it, then you're going to need a new ink pad or you're going to have to completely change that color. So that's one of those instances where I splurge. It takes a long time to use up an ink pad too, so you don't need to, if you have ink pads, use what you have, and then as they run dry, then go buy that re-inker. I think that's what I would do.
Okay.
But make your own pigment ink. That's so totally easy to replicate.
Okay. Henry Cruiser. I have a Cuttlebug and just keep buying embossing folders. I've seen you use embossed paper on cards, but I really need new ideas for using the folders in different ways so I can justify my folder fetish. Do you have many videos on unique ways to use embossing folders, or will you be doing one? Would love some suggestions. Thanks, Mrs. Henry.
All right, Mrs. Henry. I think that I do need to do some more embossing folder videos. I just did a gift set. It's on my blog yesterday, and there's a giveaway too. So if you go to my blog, link is below. Make sure you enter to win. And I did use embossing folders in that project. You could do bookmarks. They really make bookmarks look a lot classier. Of course, as layers, because once you buy the embossing folder, it's bought and paid for. It doesn't cost you any more money to use it 100 times, but it adds so much more texture and interest to artwork. One thing that's kind of fun is to take like a foam bath block and heat it up, and you can get those at the dollar store and the dollar spot at Target, and then you heat up the bath block and you press it onto your embossing folder. Then you have a custom stamp that you can ink up with ink or paint and stamp on whatever. You have two designs though, because you can do the positive or the negative image and get like two different stamps. When you're tired of that, heat your bath block up again, stamp it on another one. And it's a great way to make custom stamps. You can emboss soda cans. Sometimes I'll go through the recycling bin and I'll grab some soda cans and I'll carefully cut them. This is for grown-ups, not for kids. Cut out the soda cans. If you cut them on the die cutter, like crank it through the die cutter, it actually dulls the edge a little bit so it's not so sharp. And then you can emboss that in your embossing folders to make metal embellishments, Christmas ornaments, jewelry. You can do like earrings, all sorts of things you can emboss with it. Let's see, some people emboss paper and then they use it on their jelly plates to do gelatin printmaking. They'll use that as a texture stamp so they don't have to clean up their embossing folders and risk getting them all nasty for some mixed media work like that. You can emboss envelopes to make them just a little bit more special, even if it's just sending the kids lunch money to school. And the kids won't lose their envelopes. You can make them out of fancy, bright paper and you emboss them. They will not float around in the backpack for a week and you get letters home saying,
Let's hope not.
so-and-so didn't turn in their lunch money. So yeah, just think of anything that, metal, paper, anything like that you can emboss. Try to add it to your crafting every day and really get your money's worth out of those folders. Plastic. You could save plastic packaging, and you can emboss that and add that as a layer to a card, or all sorts of things.
Cool.
Bookmark, whatever.
Okay, so from Anita, when making a fake shimmer spray, do you use water or alcohol, and do you need glue of some type? Thanks for all your tutorials. I enjoy watching them and always learn something.
I use water because, like I mentioned with the denatured alcohol, same thing with rubbing alcohol. The alcohol has had a poison added to it so people don't drink it. So spraying it is not the best idea. You might never affect you, but I'd rather be safe than sorry in my craft room. So I use water. I use the Blick liquid pearl or gold or silver liquid watercolor because it's very fine and it goes through my sprayers. And I use Blick liquid watercolor and water. So it's mostly water. It's a little bit of the liquid watercolor and a tiny bit of the shimmer watercolor, and that works really good. But yeah, I would use water. You're spraying it. You're going to be breathing it in, your kids and your pets, and yeah, use water if you can.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. From Carolyn Albro. Hey Lindsay, thank you for doing these videos. I've learned so much. She didn't even know there was so much to be learned. My question is about liquid watercolors and using them to make spray inks. You mentioned in the video that you did about making spray inks that for us poor folks, we could buy just the 3 colors and mix them to make any color we want. Well, I'm real good at making mud. Is there a chart or website you would recommend for mixing these liquid watercolors? Thank you so much for your advice. And P.S. she made your ink refresher that you suggested, and must have been one of your videos.
Yep.
On my Tim Holtz distressed ink pad that dried out and it totally brought it back to life. Works like a charm.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so the 3 colors are, the colors that you use, that you buy, are important if you want to mix your own colors. Think of your printer. Remember the printers, now they have all kinds of colors, but the typical printers would take 3 colors. And they're not red, yellow, and blue. They're magenta, yellow, and cyan. Cyan is also turquoise. So when you buy your colors, you want to get magenta liquid watercolor, yellow liquid watercolor, and turquoise. Because it's not going to be called cyan, it's going to be called turquoise. And so those are your very pure colors. And then what I would do is I would get a few little jars, and I would put a little bit of each color in like 6 jars. And then you want to make sure you don't have more than 2 colors per jar to start out. And so if you want a really vivid green, you want to use your your turquoise and your yellow, and that's going to give you the most vivid green. Now if you decide you don't like it that bright, you want it a little darker, you can add a couple drops of magenta, and that will earth it up. That will be its opposite color, and it will make it a little more earthy. So you just want to add that color very sparingly. If you put them in 3 equal parts, each of those 3 colors, you're going to end up with brown or black. It's not going to be, you know, those rich colors that you want. So do a little experimenting. I would probably work it out with a palette and on some paper first, so you don't waste your materials while you're mixing it up. But you want most parts of your first 2 colors. So if it's a green color you're trying to make, you want mostly yellow, mostly blue. And then if you want to make it earthier or darker, then you add drops of your magenta until you get it to that color. If you want that green lighter and more chartreuse, you add more yellow. If you want it more of a like a Prussian blue, you want to add a little more blue to it. So you've got to, once you get the base color there, you want to go very easy with your opposite colors to tone it down or earth it out or make it biased to one color or the other. But practice, I mean, that's the basic way to learn.
Okay, Keela Evans. She says that she digital scrapbooks, or at least starting to, and I have, like most of us, a ton of paper wondering if copyright would make it. So I can't scan my store-bought pattern paper to be able to use in digital projects.
Okay, I thought about this question when it came in, and it's kind of been in the back of my mind, rolling around. And I think it boils down to intent. Because, like, I'll make a pet scrapbook page using traditional products. I take a picture of it, and I put it on my website so people can see it. I'm not selling that picture. You know, so I believe the intent of that is fine to do that, you know. It's not like somebody can take that pattern and print it off and use it for their scrapbook. So it's not taking away from the designer or the company that's made that paper. So if you are scanning that paper so that you can print it, or so that you can use it in your digital page, and then you're going to print it and put it in your scrapbook album, that's probably okay, because the intent of it is you're using it for personal use. However, if you're going to scan that paper and then mail it to your friend and say, here, look, I just scanned this, you want to use it? That's not okay, because you've bought one sheet of paper. You have not bought a package of paper. You don't have the rights to share it with everybody, because then you're taking money out of the pockets of the companies that made that paper. And probably a lot of companies would say you can't scan it. That's mechanical, you know, reproduction, and that's not allowed, because most stamp companies will say it's not allowed to scan it. But if you made a card and you scanned the card and you posted it on your website, you know, you're showing a completed card with that, and you're actually helping the company. So kind of ask yourself, is what you're doing, is it harmful to the company that, you know, that you've bought it from? And if it's not, then I think you're all right. It's kind of like a murky gray area there. You know, you don't want to scan that paper and then put it on your website and say, hey, everybody, you want this? Take it, download it. That's not okay. That said, I think you're going to have much better results if you search out those companies and see if they have digital formats, because Basic Gray, Cosmo Cricket, Echo Park, they all have their lines available digitally, and they're going to look a lot better. And the bonus of buying the paper digitally is that you can use it on your digital scrapbooking, or you can print it out by the sheet. There's been a few kits by Cosmo Cricket that I can't buy in stores around here. I bought the digital version. JessicaSprague.com has a great selection. They carry the Cosmo Cricket and the Echo Park, and they have sales sometimes, so I picked up some on sale. And it prints out beautifully, and I can use it digital scrapbooking if I want. So that way, if you buy the digital files, you can print off 100 sheets of that paper and use it guilt-free. You can't share that file, even if you buy it digitally. It's never okay to share those files, because then you're taking money out of the pockets of those designers. And designers don't make a lot of money, just so you know. They're not sitting, you know, in their ivory castle drinking Mai Tais all day long, brought to them by handsome cabana boys. They are, you know, working in the basement trying to make ends meet. So yeah, I would, you know, I think if you're just using it for a personal, like, scrapbook page, you're just gonna, you know, print and put in your album, I think that's all right. But, you know, think about the intent of how you're going to use it. You know, never share it with your best friend, even if it's just your best friend. It's not cool, because, you know, you're taking, even if it's just 60 cents, you're taking it out of that designer's pocket, and that's not right. But, you know, if your intent is just to create a personal scrapbook page, you bought the paper once, you know, that you're going to use it once, I think that's all right. That's, what do you think?
I think that's perfect.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, as my book, you know, you can't just go and photocopy it and hand it out. So absolutely, people work really hard for their art, whatever art that is. Yeah. Okay, 1205 Charlie, what is the best double-faced tape to use for making mini books? I'm new at this project, and the kind I use just doesn't hold. Thank you.
Okay. Mini books take a lot of wear and tear. I stopped making mini books because the kids, and I want the kids to look at them, but it doesn't take long being pulled off the shelf and being put back. They usually have weird sticky outy bits. They're not a standard size, so they take a lot of wear and tear, and a lot of times they start falling apart after a while. Probably the ATG gun is probably the way to go if you want to tape and get the permanent, and because this was designed for framers, so it's designed to hold like the dust seals on the back of paintings. It's designed for a long-lasting hold. But I think you might even want to consider Yes Paste, which is a really thick bookbinding glue, and you kind of spread it on like a spatula. It doesn't wrinkle your paper. It does take a while to dry, but you have some time to move things around while it's drying. It's very thick. It's a fabulous glue. It's called YES. It's the word yes with an exclamation point, paste, and it's in a white and blue jar. Just make sure after you've used it, you put your cap back on, put Vaseline around the rim or put a piece of wax paper on before you screw the cap on. Otherwise, it will be glued shut forever. It's that strong.
Good tip.
Yep.
Linda Bloom asks, please tell us where to get the watercolor paint brushes that are clear acrylic and have the scraper on the ends. Sends a lot of hugs and kisses. P.S. I can't find them anywhere.
Okay, well, me and Linda have gone back and forth on YouTube in the quest for the brushes. We found a kit on Amazon. It was a De La Rowney. It had De La Rowney paint. It had the Royal Langnickel brush. I think it was called the Beginner Watercolor Kit, and it was $30. Then I found the same kit at consumercrafts.com for $20 or $25. It was a bit less. And other than that, AC Moore carries the brushes in packs for $20 a pack of 6, or you can use a coupon on it. They go on sale quite frequently. You can find them at dickblick.com. You can find them at Cheap Joe's, I'm pretty sure, but any place that sells art supplies will have them.
Fantastic. Yep. Okay, Tanya C. writes, and I'm going on this one with her. This is me and Tanya's question, because I agree. I really enjoy Ask a Crafter. Years ago, when I first wanted to start scrapbooking, it was a big deal to make sure supplies were acid-free and color-fast. Now, with art booking and being creative, people are putting and using all sorts of things in their scrapbooks. I am wondering if all the acid-free rules still apply, or should I just go for it and use whatever I feel like when scrapbooking? Is there something I should absolutely avoid putting in a scrapbook? I think it's a fantastic question.
I say go for it. That's my good personal take. I say whatever, go for it. But there are a lot of products on the market now that will keep your scrapbooks lasting a lot longer. So if you want to, you've got your son's Little League clipping from the newspaper and you want to save that, you can do two things. You can scan it and print it on acid-free paper, or you can spray it with a product called Make It Acid-Free. There's also a product called Archival Mist. You can spray that. It neutralizes the acid in there. You can instead of just sticking it right into your scrapbook page, put it on a piece of cardstock first and then stick it down so you have a buffer, an acid buffer. As far as photos, we're mostly shooting digital now, so we have backups. We have CDs. You can put a CD of the year's photo in the back of your album so that you've got the actual CD there in case something happens to it. They can always print off more. I am a big believer in printing your photos anyway, because who knows what the technology is going to be in 50 years. But I would imagine they'd still be able to read a CD or a DVD.
So.
You think so?
Yeah.
But, if you're worried like that you're using something that may damage a photo, buffer it on cardstock or spray it with Archival Mist. I don't think you should let that stop your creativity, because we can always print more of the pictures. Just make sure you've backed them up in a couple places so you can get back to it. Don't be so... I think there was kind of a scare tactic. There's one company out there which actually just went bankrupt and is reopened as something else called Creative Memories. And I really love the fact that they brought scrapbooking to so many people who didn't feel like they were creative. After going to a creative memory party, you'd have a page, and even if you thought you didn't have a creative bone in your body, you still came home with a beautiful page that showed off your memories. But they were very much, their business plan was very much, getting people to buy only creative memories, and they would warranty, and I don't know how you could warranty a scrapbook. How can you replace somebody's memories if they deteriorated? But they would warranty it if you used only Creative Memories products. And I think people got very bored with that plan. And the consultants would kind of, and they were taught to be afraid of anything that was in Creative Memories. So they were afraid. They didn't want anyone to ruin their albums. Of course not. You don't want to give anybody bad advice. But I think today you can print off your pictures as many times as you want. Just back it up, print it out, have fun with it. Because if you're not having fun, if you're not exploring all the different mediums that you can use and that you want to use, then you're not going to stick with it. You're not going to keep scrapbooking. So I say go for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Good. All right. Now I can go home and scrapbook.
Awesome.
Okay. So Dove asks, I need to scan 12 by 12 papers for my website. I don't need to cut or print these scans. Do you know of any machines that will scan 12 by 12? I keep looking at the receipt scanner type products, but I haven't found one that will handle the 12 by 12.
I think you're going to get better results with a camera than with a scanner.
Oh,
I photograph my layouts rather than scanning them. I have a standard scanner. It's like 9 by 12, so I'd have to scan it, move it over, scan it again, and then like stitch the layouts together.
yeah.
To paint, it doesn't look as good. But when you take a picture, and what you want to do is you want to put your layout against something flat. You could take it outside and you could stand over it and shoot down, or you could like kind of tape it to a piece of cardboard, and you just want to make sure that you're square on with that layout, that your camera lens, if this is your camera lens, that your layout is parallel, okay, however you're shooting it. And then hold as still as you can and take the picture without a flash. And then you want to bring that into your computer and open it up in image editing software. There's a free one called GIMP. It's at www.gimp.org, and you can download that. And what you want to do is click on the levels tool, and then just click auto levels, and that is going to give you a really, if you don't know anything about anything with a computer, just do that and you're going to be fine. And then you can crop it out. If you have any distortion, there's tools where you can just kind of select the corners of each corner of your square, and then you kind of draw a box around it. You click it, and it will square it all up so it's perfect, and then you can crop it. And I think that's the best way to do it. The scanners are expensive when you're getting into big sizes like that, or you could take it into like a copy shop and have them scan it for you, perhaps. But I would use a camera. My scanner is a nice scanner, and it does not do anywhere near as well as my camera. And my camera is not that expensive of a camera either.
Fantastic. So Boke88.
I think we might be up to an hour now, so they're really in for a treat this week.
Yeah, with all my messing up of the words.
Oh, no.
I'm having trouble cutting out pictures that need some precision. Do you have some tips? Thanks.
Well, I'll show you the scissors that I use. They're they're Cutter Bee, and they've got a really micro tip here. And there's probably other companies out there, but you can find these at Target or at the craft store, any scrapbooking store. They're by EK Success, and they're called Cutter Bee. An X-Acto knife and a glass mat works really well. I don't know how good you are with an X-Acto knife. Just, get a knife, get some fresh blades, and the glass, by working on glass, you don't have the drag that you do on a self-healing mat, so it's a little bit easier to cut around. If you have an item that's got things in the center to cut out, so say you've got an image of a girl with a basket of daisies, and you see this space in her arm there, you want to cut out any spaces first before you cut around the silhouette, and that way you have control, you have a place to hold on to. So cut out your details on the inside of an image first, then go around the outside. An X-Acto knife and a glass mat works really great, or some fine point scissors.
All right, and here is your last question.
All right.
From Snoopy.
Again, awesome.
Again. Okay, here's my question. Have you ever used Copic White? I got some at a class, and they use a tiny bit of it with a toothpick to put white highlights on things. It comes in a jar, like a small Pond's moisturizing jar. So I have a ton of the stuff, but I'm not sure what else to do with it. Any suggestions?
All right, well, I'm not familiar with this product, but it sounds like a white acrylic paint, or maybe even like a whiteout. You might be able to prime things with it. You might be able to bring back an area if, like, say you've made a mistake. Your ink is spilled into the background. You might be able to kind of get rid of your mistake like that if it's not something that you can. Sometimes if you use a clear Copic marker, you can kind of push your ink back into the design, but if you can't, you could go over it with that. I think I would just try to keep it capped up really well so that, you can use it before it dries out. Highlights and eyes. Bringing out highlights anywhere. You could even flick it, like dip a toothbrush in it and flick it onto a scene if you were doing like waves crashing or snow, something like that. Probably be really cute on your holiday cards. You could use up a lot of it like that for holiday cards. If you want to speckle a background, color your image. If it's like a kid's building a snowman, color it all in, then fleck it all over with snow. You might even be able to add a little bit of sand or maybe Pearl-Ex. Like if you painted an area, then you could sprinkle in the sand or Pearl-Ex or fine white glitter and give like a snow effect that way too. You use it almost like an adhesive. That's what I would do. I haven't used it, but those are just some ideas that kind of came on the top of my head there. So
great ideas.
All right. Well, there, you've made it through your first Ask a Crafter. What do you think?
Thank goodness. I think you should do this for all your fans. One winner gets to come and do this. This is a blast.
Oh, is it?
I have learned a ton of stuff.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Do that. Draw a name out.
Yeah, that's right. You get to see the treasures. Oh my goodness. It's awesome
yes,
down
the
here.
the crazy crafter.
Love it.
The housework avoiding area, as I like to call it.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly.
Absolutely.
Let's show the cover of your book again. There'll be links
can do
below
this.
the video, so you can click on it and you can find it on Amazon, or you can go to her blog, and she's got updates for where she will be for book signings and conferences and fun stuff like that.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for watching. If you have a question, leave a comment below, and we'll answer it next week for Ask a Crafter. And thank you, Kelly, so much for joining me. And until
Thanks
next
for having
time,
me.
happy crafting.
Bye.